So with 10.1 just releasing and ranked coming back with this patch, I've been playing a lot of it, and it's actually quite a bit of fun this patch. Um, the changes they've made to ranked since the old days where it was a single tier and it was one big long shot to rank 1, I actually think it's pretty good, splitting it up into multiple leagues and multiple different tiers. I do wish there was no tier 10. I wish it would go like tier 7, tier 8, tier 9. As you go from bronze, silver, gold. I just personally really dislike tier 10 and how the meta is when you have tier 10 ships in it these days. It's pretty stale. But Bronze League is tier 8 and tier 9. And that gives a lot of opportunity for fun games. So if you haven't tried it yet, I would definitely recommend you give it a go if you've got a tier 8 or 9 ship. If you're wondering what tier you should play, if you have a bunch of tiers, I'm going to always recommend you play a tier 9 ship. Play whatever ship is strongest that you have. Sure, you may save a star a little easier with a bottom tier ship, getting more experience from shooting at higher tier ships, but realistically, that's not really going to help you out when perhaps you could have carried a game with a better ship. And that's what I want to talk about, is carrying a game. How do you do that? It's not easy, and you do have to have very good decision-making skills. So you notice our team is quite passive over on the BC flank, and from the initial start of this game, because I'm in a Georgia that's so fast, I've decided I'm going to try flanking. I need to try and build a flank that the enemy team has to deal with. So that's what I've done. I've gone for A. My initial plan was to actually go around the islands that are south of A there. But when I realized the whole enemy team went to the B and C cap, there's no point in me going around those islands anymore. I should just build the flank right away, not put myself out of the fight when I go behind the islands there. So I just turned in and decided to create a big giant crossfire on this Iowa. You notice my Bismarck and Kansas friends are on their broadside. The problem is they're not shooting at the Iowa, but it's okay because this Iowa is overextended and I know we can definitely kill him. Unfortunately, our two cruisers did not play this particularly well, sitting out in the open with the Iowa right in front of them. I'm not sure what the reasoning was behind that, but they're both dead here, or basically dead. And that happens. Games that you have to carry, oftentimes your team makes big mistakes like this. And it is doable in a battleship to carry a game, as long as there's no destroyers. DDs are kind of disgustingly strong in these in this meta, especially if there's no aircraft carrier. And you're really not going to carry games if you're in a battleship and you're playing against destroyers. But we've crafted our flank, we've collected the cap zone, the only cap our team has, and we're going to continue pushing and putting pressure on the enemy. So with carrying these games, it's important to read the map and read the battle. There's a flow to the battle, okay? There's always a side where your team or the enemy team are pushing, okay? And they're pushing through. And that means the people that are defending that push give ground, okay? But that means that if the enemy team is strong on one flank, that means they have to be weak on the other side. And with that, you want to push into that weakness. And that's kind of the way to counter an enemy team that's really strong in one area. It's important to be able to read where the enemy team is strong and where the enemy team is weak. So if you're on the strong flank defending a strong enemy push, you need to give ground. If you're on the flank that the enemy team doesn't have very many ships and is kind of weak on, you need to be pushing and applying pressure, like I'm doing here. The majority of the enemy team is up in the sea cap, and we are in a top tier battleship facing a cruiser and a battleship. It's very easy for us to apply a lot of pressure here and hopefully carry out this game for us. You can see we keep losing teammates, but that doesn't matter. We just need to keep applying pressure to hopefully distract the enemy team long enough that perhaps we can mount some sort of comeback here. You'll notice that my team is just kind of staying south of the sea cap. Even though there's really only a Massachusetts there, we've gotten to the point where the scores are tied now. I would love to see my team push back in to the enemy team, at a certain point, most pushes stall out. At a certain point, they basically all do, unless the enemy team just totally gives up when you're pushing. But you'll notice that I have been having to fight 2 to 3 ships here nearly by myself. And that's something that I'm capable of doing because I feel pretty confident in a ship like a Georgia. But reading when to push in and when to disengage is the most important thing about carrying a game. You need to be alive in the late game to carry out a game. You can't just YOLO in and die. I assumed this Vladivostok would come and try and ram me, as that would be a very good trade for this guy. It would be a very, very good option because my teammates aren't in really good positions to really deal with the enemy. So getting me out of the game is probably his best bet, but that's why I risked the turn. I assumed that we would lose the game if this guy rammed, and therefore I was okay with taking the risk of turning flat broadside and potentially getting devstruck, because I figured the game would be lost anyway if I died to a ram, so I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. So taking these risks into account are very, very important in carrying out a ranked game. And you're going to have to carry out ranked games because, for the most part, people don't really know how to play games. They don't really know how to read the map and how to see where they need to push and where they need to apply pressure and where they need to maybe disengage a little bit. A lot of times people overcommit to a push that they have seen in a YouTube video or in a Twitch stream, or a position that they know that, oh, some YouTuber or Twitch streamer has played this position and it worked really well. Well, that's not always a good position depending on the enemy's deployment. That's the thing. So learning when to push in and get those really strong positions on some islands, that kind of thing, and when to hold off and say, no, I need to disengage or play a little more passive because I don't have support and the enemy team has a lot of people. That's all about the flow of the game. And with practice, you'll get more used to that, where you need to apply pressure and where you don't. A ship like a Georgia is very nice for this because it's so fast and it has these very fast cooldown heals, so you're relatively tanky and difficult to kill. So it's a really nice ship for a ranked season like this, assuming there's no DDs. There were games that I played today where it was just my destroyers all died instantly and there was nothing I could do. The game was lost. And that's okay. That just happens sometimes. You're never going to be able to carry out every single game, but there are some games that you can win if you know what you're doing. And in a game like this is certainly one of them. I think our push along the A to B area really won our team this game. And if that didn't happen, I think we probably would have lost. Our Hipper on full HP is playing incredibly passively. Our Bismarck might have made something happen. He seemed to be reasonably aware of what was going on, which was nice. But this ranked season has the opportunity for these very interesting games, at least Bronze League. I'm assuming once tier 10 ships get into the picture, it's going to be less interesting just because of the insane power levels of certain ships in that tier. It gets a little boring when it's just Thunderer spam, and then there's really not much you can do because they're just going to sit at the back and spam high explosive. So that's my thoughts on carrying a game out. It's really all about knowing when to push and when to play passive. And it changes throughout the game. Sometimes you've applied enough pressure to pull enemy forces away from their strong flank to come and deal with you. That's a good thing. But you need to recognize when that happens in order to disengage or get yourself safe. And that's where using islands to isolate 1v1s when you start to get into those multi-opponent scenarios are really important to use. So it's all about this flow of the battle, I'm going to call it, that you need to get used to. And really that's only going to happen over time. But realistically, the biggest thing is reading the map. That will help you win games more often than not, seeing where the enemy is strongest and making more aggressive or more passive plays dependent on that. And each map is different. There's different islands you can use. There's different plays you can make. Sometimes you can hold an entire flank from an island. Other times you have to totally give up and play a more passive open water game. But it's a fun experience, I think. And there, we even got our Confederate somehow. Even 6 kills with a Confederate. Pretty crazy. This is in Bronze League with a Georgia as a top tier. It worked out pretty well, I'd say. I've had a lot of fun with this, and I think you should probably give it a shot if you're looking for something more interesting than the just standard campy random battle skew. So, hope you guys enjoyed this game and a look at how, on a very broad level, you can carry out games and have a lot of fun. So, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.